Hello, everybody. It's Lisa Sharon Harper at the kitchen table, and I am here with my friend, my good friend, and actually longtime friend, Jonathan P. Walton, who has just come out with a new book, Beauty and Resistance, Spiritual Rhythms for Resistance and Repair. Spiritual Rhythms for Resistance and Repair. I'm telling you, I just have read. I haven't read the whole thing. I'm going to be honest with you,
No way.
because for some reason I missed the fact that it came. Sorry, I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay. No worries.
Waiting for it, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I have. And then there it was. It was actually in my email in a PDF version or a digital version. So, but I did actually get a chance to read the introduction, and it already, Jonathan, has actually been really beautiful. And I'm really impressed with the level of your vulnerability in that first opening chapter, the introduction. And so we'll get a chance to go into that. But whenever we start our kitchen table conversations, we always start with our words. What is your word coming into the time? What
So,
would you say?
well, one, thank you for having me. And two, I was listening to your podcast the last week. I'm like, I gotta have a word. I gotta have a and man, I feel like my word is like tension. There's there like Lisa,
Mm-hmm.
there are so many amazing things that happen every single day.
Mm.
Every day. Like, and we can be like super black and just talk about I got heat, I got food, I got activity of my limbs. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
Right.
not
So therefore,
right.
I'm okay. Right.
Right. Right. And then it's like, I made some tuna salad for my kids last night and
Mm.
toasted it. It was delicious. Like these little things that feel so good, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Mhm.
Um, then there was a little boy in the elevator. Like I was walking, he was standing there. We were waiting for like 2 seconds. And I said, "How are you?" And he just said, "Bad, like not good." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "I just got made fun of at the lunch table. And I just want to go home and go to sleep." And then we step into the elevator
Wow.
and I tell him, and I'm like, "Hey, like, I really hope you can get some tea. You can do your homework. You have somebody who loves you. You can sleep well tonight and like try again tomorrow."
Mm.
And that's like first, second floor. Beep, beep, right? He
Right.
gets
Right.
he
Mhm.
gets out and he's like, "Thank you so much for talking to me."
Mm.
And he like disappears.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And
I
so
do.
it's just like there are these things that are really, really great. And then there's these moments that are just really hard. And
Yeah.
so I feel like it's tension. It's costly to be present, man. It's costly, but it's
Yeah.
good,
Actually, it's funny because your book actually brings that out. I mean,
Mm.
the beauty and resistance, right? And actually, in
Mhm.
your introduction, it's one of the points that you make is that our call is to really truly hold
Mhm.
both the
For
beauty
sure.
and the resistance, and we can mess up by having a lack of balance there, by only having the resistance or
Yes.
only having the beauty, right?
Right.
And not actually entering into the struggle of this world, and therefore actually helping us to forfeit it.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the wisdom in your book and how it really is even held in your word. Thank you for that. I'm going to give everybody a chance now to please. Oh, hello, Reverend Anthea Butler. So good to see you on
I
here. So thank
appreciate
you so much
you.
for joining.
Yes.
Love you to death. And we'll definitely have you on here sometime soon. Okay. Um, Everybody, please put your word into the chat. Let us know what your word is as you are coming in. I would say for me, my word coming in, ooh, like, boy, I would say my word coming in is inquisitive.
Mm.
I feel like God is messing with me right now. I do. Over the last 24 hours, I feel like God is messing.
Mm.
Like sometimes God gets in your stuff and starts messing.
I do.
That's
I'm
what
not
I feel
interested in it, but I hear you.
like. I mean, I'm serious. Like, this is what I feel like. Yesterday. Okay, so I am starting the conversation about becoming ordained in the Episcopal Church. Yes,
Congratulations.
I am. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I was like, yay! Now, who knows? Who knows if I'm actually going to keep, complete it? I don't. That's the whole point of the discernment process is to figure out, is this my call? And I do feel a very strong call to ordination. In fact, I have a story about that I can talk about later, or in another context. But a story, I almost got ordained one time, and then
Mm.
I stopped the process for another reason. So we could talk about that later.
Mhm.
Um, but I was in the conversation with the supervisor person on the diocesan level,
Mm.
and she asked me, "What is my rule of life?" And I was totally thrown back to, like, the old days
Mhm.
when the rule of life conversation began, like, when I first started hearing it as rule of life,
Mhm.
in New York City. It was New Life Church,
Yep.
out in Queens, and forgive me, I'm blanking on the man's name who wrote the book, Rule of Life.
Yeah.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Peace Gazera, emotional health.
Yes,
Peace
that's
Gazera.
right,
Yep.
Pete
Mhm.
Scazzaro! Yes, exactly, Pete Scazzaro. So, sending you love, Pete Scazzaro. So, I actually, through my time on InterVarsity, had already developed a rule of life without the language, and so when he introduced that concept, I was like, "Oh, there's a word for this," you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but you talk about it in your book, and she mentioned it yesterday. She says, "What is your rule of life?" And
Mm.
I thought to myself, do I still have a rule of life? Like, for
Mm.
me, it feels very much more like flow. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm in flow. And I had a lot of scaffolding, which you talk about
Mm.
in my earlier developmental years. Maybe
Yeah.
not even developmental, like even like earlier years, like in my 30s, even 40s. But I have less of that hard scaffolding now and more am just walking in it. Like
Mhm.
I feel more like I'm just walking in it. But that doesn't actually hold up when you come under pressure.
Right. Yes. No.
That's
Yeah.
when the rule of life actually that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
It's there for the pressure moments. And I'm realizing, shoot, I am we're all of us are under a lot of pressure right now. So it really hit me how current our conversation is
Mm.
for most of us. In fact, I dare say all of us who are living in the United States today
Yes.
in the context of the world and the church, because that pressure is everywhere.
Mhm.
So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your
Oh,
book.
yeah.
And
For sure.
before I go any further, I need to introduce you.
Oh.
I haven't done that. I just realized that. So we did our words. I would love to see everybody else's word also in a chat. So please write your word down. How are you coming into the space today? What are you bringing in with you? Just one word. What's your word?
Mhm.
Let me introduce Jonathan P. Walton to you while we're waiting for you to write your words into the chat. Jonathan is a writer, a speaker, a facilitator at the intersection of faith, justice, and emotional health. And so he leads Beauty and Resistance cohorts. These are cohorts that are named after the book, or maybe he named the book after the cohorts.
Mhm.
But you know,
Exactly.
but these cohorts actually bring together like scores of faith leaders who meet on a regular basis in order to go deep into that intersection together.
Mm.
And he also writes the Crux here on Substack. So if you haven't signed up for his newsletter, please do. And he's also the senior resource specialist for InterVarsity Christian Fellowship's focus on political discipleship and civic engagement. They have that, y'all. They have that.
You.
And so that's actually part of what I want to talk with you about today. And I also see Brianna wrote proud.
Mhm.
So, Brianna, we hear you. Carrie wrote curious. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing your words. Others, please share your words.
Mhm.
Um, so, okay. So one of the things that like stood out to me about your writing, about the way that you write and
Mhm.
where you're writing from is that you are one of the rare ones, I think,
Mm.
today who still very much you are rooted
Mhm.
in really the heart of the, I would say, true evangelical world, right? Like
Mhm. Mhm.
there's the MAGA evangelicals, which are not
Right.
actual true evangelicals. They're like political evangelicals who've never
Right.
really stepped foot in a church in their life, maybe once or twice. Or
Right.
they went to a MAGA rally that felt like church, but actually it was political, right? So
Exactly. Mhm.
I'm not counting that as evangelical. Like you, though, are still firmly rooted in the evangelical world. as a staff member with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship.
Mhm.
And yet, now the reason I've made that distinction is that, you're not MAGA.
Right.
And you're also not like 100% political, and especially not conservative political, right? That's not you.
Right.
Yet, at the same time, um, you are also, I think, in many ways, not like the typical evangelicals that we do find in the heart of evangelical, like actual evangelicalism today,
Mhm.
which in my experience tend to be silent in these
Mhm.
days. They
Mhm.
tend to actually not be engaged, um, either out of embarrassment for the people who are calling themselves evangelical, or even their parents and, people around the Thanksgiving table, which is coming up,
Mhm. Yep.
who are evangelical and have gone the MAGA way, right? Like they could out of embarrassment, or they are silent because they're confused themselves. They may not have been discipled into, like, what does it look like to carry the spirit of Jesus into the public square?
Right.
They may not have, so they don't really know what to do. So they're silent. You are not like that.
Mhm.
And I think I am really intrigued by the way that, in the same way that you call us to hold both the beauty and the resistance, you actually speak from a deep belief in a lot of the things that evangelicals traditionally have held, the scripture.
Mhm.
Like, you are speaking from the scripture. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're digging into it and you're bringing it out in a way that I actually think a lot of people today who are evangelical or were
Right.
evangelical, post evangelicals, ex evangelicals, all the things, deconstructing evangelicals, all the, um, they don't tend to they don't tend to write in the way that you do. Like,
Mhm.
you're still writing from that place of, like, assumed belief, like the
Right.
word, right? But the thing that I love about the way that you're writing, and actually I have to say part of it, I'm sure, is because it reminds me um, of my own writing, and, like,
That's what I was gonna
especially in the earlier days,
Yeah.
like when I was writing the Very Good Gospel, right? Like,
Yes.
it comes from a place of deep um, resonance with the social location of the people who wrote that scripture.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
They were the marginalized, the rejected, the oppressed ones. And so I see you standing on the authority of the scripture, but not in a way that compromises your call to justice, but rather supports it,
Mhm.
which is, it's refreshing, I have to say, today. And it's also a little surprising, especially in this context. So I want you to talk a little bit about why. Like, how did you come to this place where you're writing this book from the place that you're writing it from? Grounded in
Yeah.
scripture and still grounded in the evangelical community.
Yeah. Well, one, thank you for naming all those threads because there's a lot of them, and you carry a lot of those same threads in you.
I do.
I think it's really profound to me that I saw Shane Claiborne last weekend. I
Mhm.
saw you last Friday,
Mhm.
and the last time I was with Shane was 20 years ago, almost,
Oh.
when Jesus for President came out,
Yes.
and
And
I
he came to New York
he
City.
came to New York City, and
We brought him to New York City. Yeah.
yeah, right? And then I remembered being I was in Michigan 2 weeks ago, and the last time I was in Michigan was with you when you wrote "Evangelicals Not Equal Republican or Democrat"
My
with
very first
yeah,
book.
yes.
Oh my gosh.
And so if we're gonna string these things together, right? Of
Mhm.
like, how did I remain the person 20 years ago that could write from that place,
Mhm.
be firmly interested in evangelicalism, but not be discipled into white evangelicalism,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and yeah, and I think
That's
that
a rare thing. I mean, I was discipled into white
yes,
evangelicalism and had to
you wrote
shake
about
it
that,
off, right? So
right?
how
And
did you do that?
well, I think that I had a you, right? I had a Brenda Salter McNeil. I had people that I had Paula Fuller. I had people that had walked in and were like, "Hey, hey, don't Kevin Blue in LA. Don't go that way,
Turn
Jonathan.
back.
Yeah, don't do that."
Don't go that way.
You know?
Wow.
And
Uh,
I was able to then um go back to where I came from,
mm,
right? So when
mm.
I wrote 12 Lies, so I tell this story a lot because I wrote 12 Lies, the book proposal for 12 Lies,
Give
and
the full name of the
yeah, so
title.
that book is called 12 Lies That Hold America Captive and the Truth That Sets Us Free. And that book was my attempt to say that if you say I'm a Christian nationalist, you are confessing that you are not a follower of Jesus. That you can't say that. Like Jesus, Shane would say, Jesus would never wear a "Go Rome" T-shirt, right? Like you wrote with with Oz Guinness and having those hard, deep conversations of like we are conflating things that are anti-Jesus.
Mm,
We are conflating things that have nothing to do with the Jesus of Nazareth, but everything to do with the white Jesus of Christian nationalism. And what I
mhm,
would say is white American folk religion so that we can make a distinction. Because I do believe this is a sheep and a goat conversation,
mhm.
you know? And I will say that the only reason, and this is super straight up, the only reason I've been able to sustain myself in this environment is because I have a history outside of it, like in the black church, right?
That's
Like that's
really huge.
that's where I'm from. Like
That
I'm
is
not
huge. And
yeah.
I'm sorry, let me just also say you moved to New York City from
Yes, from Broadnax, Virginia. So my town, there'll be more people that see this Zoom than are in my county. Or this Substack than in my county. So
You were like
that
straight country and not just straight country, but like from the church in that space. Like you were grounded and rooted in the black church experience there.
right. Right. And I think
Wow.
growing up on a church or in a church that was on a plantation, like our church is, well, when I was a kid, it was 150 years old. So it's probably, 175 now. Right. But like that little wooden church and going to like Sunday school union, right. Where our churches were segregated out. So we had our own little, like, I didn't know what Catholicism was or denomination was or like
Mhm.
what another Baptist was. Like I didn't know about the SBC till I got to college. Like that, this was a total. I didn't leave Southern Virginia till I was 18. So
Right.
this like there's a rootedness that
Mm,
you're talking about, and
mhm,
your book Fortune goes back. Like we got to figure out where we're from,
mhm,
And so I did a lot of that work in 12 Lies, and one of the things I wrote about after Alton Sterling was killed in Louisiana.
mhm.
Um, I wrote about listening. I couldn't listen to worship songs anymore because I
Yeah.
was like, this song that's not for me. Like, I
Mm,
don't know how to sing like that. You know
mm,
what I mean? Like,
mm.
it's not, I wrote, like, it would be wonderful to be able to sing with that amount of distance from suffering and just to be free in that way. Like, that's performative, right? But the songs I teach my kids, which I talk about in Beauty and Resistance, like, those are the songs that will carry them through the first time they're called the N word, the first time they're like, I remember holding my daughter and a man couldn't see her face and then he made fun of a Chinese woman driving, right? And so I'm holding my daughter. He can't see her face because she looks Chinese and Korean because she is, right?
Mhm.
And he expects me to be allied with him in this ridicule in the parking lot.
Oh my God.
And I just like I lost it and looked at
Mhm,
him and he was like, "Oh, this is not gonna go well." So he walked away.
mhm.
But it's one of those things where like I had to go back and I have that. And I think the second thing is, and again, to be straight up, is like I have donors who support me. That allows me to stay. At the end
Mm,
of the day, if I have health insurance, I can do my job, right? Like
mhm.
there are 95 people and families that make sure I'm able to do the work that I do. There are people who pray, there are people who give, and there said we want all this to happen. And so I think that's one of the things we also don't talk about is like it costs money to live in this country.
Yeah.
And there are so many people who don't get to do liberative work because the structures and systems are set up to push them out. And so,
Wow.
yes, I think so. History and a community of support would be the things that keep me
It's
in this book. But yeah.
it's interesting because, I mean, you have donors who support you
Hmm.
and who have not pooled their support based on what you have said or written. Uh,
Well, yeah, not enough. I have,
Not enough of them.
yeah,
That's a good for you to say for you to stop, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
that's actually that's really important. And you know, but the truth also is that you are a part of a larger organization
Hmm.
that is very, very conscious of what its people say.
Hmm. Hmm.
Very.
Hmm.
So I I wonder how do you hold that?
Hmm.
How do you hold that?
So I think that, and I mean, this comes out in the book, right?
Mhm.
Like I had to recognize the fact that like I can't sell the Kool-Aid. Um,
Mhm.
and it came up, there was a mistake in the organization that cost a lot of money and there was a restructuring and people were being let go.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, oh, I thought I was gonna be here for a long time. Oh, and then
Mm.
my wife, who is the truth teller in chief in my life, she said to me, because her experience in university was not affirming. It was
Mm.
not. It was she went to school in Maryland, and experienced a lot of the stuff you write about in your book about how Maryland is.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she
Yeah.
said, "Jonathan, you're celebrating your time within the varsity in New York City. That was not my experience."
Oh,
And
that's true.
so
Yeah.
and so she said to me, she said, "Jonathan, you are a man, you're popular." And she said, "InterVarsity has been consistent for the last 20 years. You are just on the other side of it now.
Mm.
You need to think about what that looks like and what that means."
Oh,
Right.
wow.
Yeah. And so I had to think about that. I was like, "Oh, okay. So let me lean into that, right?"
Mhm.
Because she can say things like that at this kitchen table that I'm sitting at. you know. And it was one of those things where I said, "Oh, like, who did I not see
Mm.
experiencing what I'm going through right now?"
Mm.
So I had to go back and have some conversations and say, "Hey, I'm so sorry I didn't see this happening to you when they
Wow.
said this."
Mm.
I didn't I literally sent the email. I said, "Hey, like, I'm sorry I taught you that.
Mm.
'Cause I did not set you up well for
Wow.
life after this." You
Yeah.
know? Um, and so I think that holding the tension in 2020, well, really, this started around 2019,
Mhm.
was the fact that like I may go somewhere that the organization doesn't wanna go.
Mhm.
And if the organization doesn't wanna go there, I have to go anyway. And I
Yeah, I
have
mean, I think the
Yeah.
question is call. Like, if you feel
Right.
like the Spirit of God is calling you to speak
Mhm.
truth,
Right.
the organization, for whatever reason, is saying, "No, don't speak that,"
Mhm.
then who is God? Is really the
Right.
only question.
Yes.
Who is God? Is it the
Yes,
organization or is it God?
right, and then I'll say this last thing that's super important. I also think that one of the things that is radically unhelpful about recruiting really, really young people to big organizations is that we believe then our identity and our authority and our influence comes from being attached to the organization, right?
Yeah. And let me just say, the longer that you're in, the
Yes.
more that is true, and especially and the younger that you join, the
Yes.
more that that is true. That's true.
So I was
That's true.
22, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, really 19 when
Mhm.
I joined, and I've been on staff since then,
Yeah.
right? And so the most affirming thing, I mean, you've done this many times throughout the last 20 years. Jose Humphreys, who writes on here, did this 2 weeks ago. He said to me, he said, "Jonathan, like, I don't, wait, just to be clear, I don't follow you because you're on staff.
Mhm.
I follow you because you follow Jesus." Right.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I talk about this in the beauty and resistance course. It's like there's institutional enmeshment that can happen.
Mhm.
Right. So the a lot of books about rule of life, including emotional healthy spirituality, or there's a guy Justin Early who writes about the habits of the household. Like John Mark Comer, a lot of these books, what ends up happening is your rule of life leads you to flourish. And it kind of stops right there. You and yours, me
Mm.
and mine.
Mm.
But rules of life, particularly in like monastic communities and things like that, if I'm flourishing, my community is also flourishing.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
It's not like I'm good. I've got my
Yeah.
yoga practice and I've got my pet and I've got my tea. Like that's not the way of Jesus. Jesus didn't come to the woman at the well for her. He did, but also for her whole town. Right. And to model for us what it looks like to affirm women in the world. Like there's a much larger narrative that doesn't fit into the Amazon book review product ranking that we're trying to get. You
Mm.
know? So
I do know.
yeah.
I do know.
As we
I know
check
that
to see
well.
where it's ranked.
Right, right. No, I hear that, but let me also say, I mean, there's a first of all, you have to know who is your audience, right? Who are the people you're speaking to? And it may not be, it may not be as wide
Yeah.
as an audience as would be needed to get to the top 10 on Amazon, you know what I mean?
Right.
But
Yeah.
if you have a very specific audience and your message is going deep, you are making significant impact because
Right.
it's helping to change the whole calculus of the world as
Mhm.
people take that in and change their behavior. So I want to ask you then, in light of this, I mean,
Mm.
you talk about the rule of life, you talk about it as scaffolding that is necessary. Especially when you're building something is kind of the way that you're putting it. Um, and I want to know, what are the lessons that you gleaned from it and that you continue to glean, especially in this context today? I mean, just this week, we had, in some ways, we had kind of the culmination of Time's Up
Right.
with the women, um, uh, survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Donald Trump, and others, um, Bill Clinton included,
Right.
and others, Larry Summers. Um, w- they got their moment where they got to speak their truth again for the
Yeah.
second time on the Capitol Hill steps. And that day, the Senate then it moved through the House and the Senate all in one
Yeah.
day.
It
And
can
then
happen, right?
it can happen. And then overnight, last night, Donald Trump signed it into law. So, thank God. And at the same time, holding both,
Right.
we all know that they've already signaled that there's gonna be loopholes, right? There's
Oh,
gonna be reasons why they can't release, some of the stuff that is actually the most important things
right.
to release.
Mhm.
Um, and so we're holding both of those things. But in that context, in the context of, um, people losing their healthcare right now,
Right.
right? Because the end of the shutdown and the fact that we did not get health care and it's going away and food stamps
Mhm.
were withheld for so long. And thank God we actually were able to get some of that back, right? So, like in the middle of this chaotic time,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
how are how are you, as you're now speaking a lot about this book, how are you holding this time in light of what you've written?
Yeah. So I'll in the book I talk about so you asked me that question, right? And people are listening, and we don't honestly have slots to fit all of it in to then be able to apply it. And
Yeah.
so that was one of the things I was trying to figure out. And so in the book, I break it down. So like individual, intimate, interpersonal, institutional, and ideological. And so
Ah,
it's like when
oh,
Jesus said the kingdom of God is coming, there could be five people and they're going to apply it in five different ways,
hmm
right?
hmm
Judas is thinking, I, I got an interesting theology about Judas.
okay.
I think Judas wanted to start a revolution, and it wouldn't have mattered how much money it was. He wanted to get Rome out. So he's like, "Look, I'm going to take the money. Let's like because this needs to get done." Peter's got
Okay,
a
we can
sword
talk
all
about that another
right,
time for
right.
sure.
No, but Peter's. I'm just imagining like
Okay.
Peter's got his sword already. We already know Simon is strapped, right? And so it's like, what if these people, whenever Jesus says the kingdom of God is coming, all they hear is Rome is being kicked out. It's all institutional and ideological,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Whereas Mary Magdalene, like, there may be some institutional stuff there, but like that feels really intimate to me,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think, Mary, mother of Jesus, I think she might have got all five. The angel showed up and she's like, the rich will go away hungry. You've seen me in my like there's some levels happening here, right?
Well, but I will say about Mary Magdalene, though. Sorry, you got me thinking.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but I'll say yes, intimate, as in if this is the same woman who was dragged out of bed with the man, right?
Yeah.
Who now she's accused of adultery, um, and Jesus, I love how he bends down in the sand and just writes something, and
Yes.
everybody walks away because what he's basically said is, "He who is without sin, throw the first
That's what's
stone,"
up.
and then he says to her, "Go and sin no more." Um, you know, if we see that in the context without political context,
Right.
then we can read it like white evangelicals tend to read it, which is this
Exactly. Right.
sinful woman who was caught in sin, and we're all sinful. And certainly I can see where you're talking about the intimate, the personal, because she must be personally grateful for
Hmm.
having her life, right? Like he saved her life.
Yeah.
But there's also, I imagine, a level of deep institutional gratitude
Oh, for
or
sure. Yeah. Mhm.
systemic gratitude because he interrupted a system.
Yes.
He interrupted a way that men interacted with women
Yes.
in relationship to themselves in that day,
Right. And
and called them to understanding the equality
mhm.
of you are equal to this woman. If you have not sinned, then, then okay, go ahead and stone her, knowing they have all sinned. They are equally
Yes.
needing God's fate, God's favor, God's grace.
Yes.
Also, sorry, I need to say this
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
especially in light of what has happened with the survivors,
Mhm.
that she was being used,
Right.
like she was being, in some ways, trafficked for political ends. Like she
Yes.
was being used, and not only by the man who was using her, was not quote adultery, but it might have been rape or at
Of
least
course.
exploitation,
Mhm.
um, sex slavery, um, or well, I won't say or. I'll just say that that was likely going on.
Yes.
So for Jesus to interrupt that
Yes.
is it's a structural systemic interruption. So
Right.
I just want to say
Yeah.
that is also there too.
Yes. So yes. And so if there's an accordion of discipleship, right? Intimate or individual, intimate to personal, institutional, ideological, most of us only pick one or two. And then there's
Mm,
gaps, right?
okay.
And so for me, as I'm processing the things that are happening, I'm trying not to have gaps. And so
Mm,
when I think about what's happening with Jeffrey Epstein, I immediately think about 10 years or 12 years ago when I was leading the Price of Life in New York City
mhm.
around fighting sex trafficking and labor slavery, like in New York City,
Yeah.
116 events, 13 campuses, 40,000 people. And I'm like, God, oh, individually, how are you coming to me? I thought things were going to be better.
Mm,
I thought this was going to be different. So I actually had to lament that we're still having this conversation.
mm,
And then I had a knot, like a gap in the wood, like intimate. Like Priscilla asked me, she's like, Jonathan, like, have you considered and thought about when we have conversations around parenting that the expectations for me as a woman working full time and doing these things and you as a man are different?
mm.
Have you considered that when we're having this conversation?
Wow.
And I was like, no.
Mm,
Not all the time. It's not top of mind. It's not conscious. So there's a gap
mhm,
intimate, right? And
mhm,
so then I
mhm.
start
I
to think
understand.
about like,
Yeah.
okay, like, and then ultimately for me, I'm just going to jump to ideological because I think this is really
Mhm,
important. I go to Psalm 5.
mm,
Like I have to keep myself from arrogance
mhm,
because Romans 3:23 is true. I have sinned and we have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So as much as I look at Jeffrey Epstein, I must not say that I'm better than him.
mm.
I must
I do.
no. Well,
Hell
I'm,
yes.
I'm, I'm thinking about
I'm better than him.
well. Here's what
I'm better than a sex trafficker. I mean, come on, you are too. Don't you
I
do
am.
that.
But here's
Don't you
here's what
do
I
that.
mean. What I mean is like
Okay, you better explain.
I'm gonna explain. Um, if I do not humbly reflect on the reality that like, okay, just because I am married And just because I have daughters doesn't mean I'm a good husband and doesn't mean I'm a good father. I've got work to do. And I think
Yeah.
one of the things that I was having a conversation about this yesterday with someone, and I said, I mean this in the most loving way possible.
Mm.
But like, just because you're really generous at Christmas
Mhm.
and giving money away, because he asked me, he was like, how do I not judge people who are not as generous and not? And I was like, you're not better than the person at church that isn't giving as much money as you. You
Mhm.
know, so how do
Mhm.
how do I like lean into that so that yes, I have made progress. Praise God, I'm not who I used to be, right? And
Mhm.
I have never been and never will be a trafficker. At the same time, I'm like, all right, Jesus, how can my heart not objectify the women around me
Yeah,
to
and
posture myself
that
like
is what Jesus called out, right? He called people out
yeah,
what was going on in their heart, even though they weren't doing the thing that they were pointing at. Okay, I
right?
get
Which
you.
and I'm gonna name this very quickly
Mhm.
because it came up yesterday. Like one of the tensions that I feel that is deeply frustrating to me is our comfortability with violence.
Mm.
Comfort with violence. Because the reality is Epstein and all these people would have never happened if there were not people who were comfortable with violence against women. People who are comfortable with exploitation of women's bodies. People who are comfortable with the level of impunity that people could operate with in the world. And like, so there we like it boggles my mind, but I try to hold on to it that a third of Nazi Germany never condemned the Nazis. A third. So after I'm like, how can we
Never, as in to this day.
to this day? Right? And so I'm like, how could we be okay with what's happening in Palestine? How can we be okay with what's happening in schools in Charlotte? How can we be okay with people like SWAT teams swooping in and tying up kids in Chicago? It's like, oh, there's a group of people that are okay with this. And
Yeah.
even if they're not consciously okay, they are not opposed.
Mhm.
And so I think we have to absolutely like yes, it is about Jeffrey Epstein, but it makes me angry to my core that I could have conversations with men in my life
Mm.
who believe that they are entitled to the bodies of other women.
So
And
let me
and
no, go on. Go on. What were you gonna say? My
the last and it makes me repentant
mm,
that I can subconsciously believe that too.
yeah.
Right? Like, cause I mean, I could listen to all the songs. R. Kelly was on my playlist when I was a kid, right? These are things in my own heart. So anyway.
Mhm. No, I really agree. Honestly, I really appreciate that. And honestly, if we had more people who were doing that deep work that you've done,
Mm.
we would be a different nation right now. We would
Yeah.
be a different nation. This is what's necessary. This level of self interrogation,
Yes.
interrogation of your own heart.
Right.
I think we are so caught in the loop of the outward interrogation, the finger that's pointing outward, right?
Mhm.
And that we are there. Like that is where we have been actually for quite some time.
Mm.
And I think that that's part of the messiness of reckoning. You have your very first chapter is on reckoning. It's part of what it looks like for time to be up, right? Like when the women call it out, and then next thing you know, and the black folk call it out, Black Lives Matter, and we're marching with our fists in the street and we're saying we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to take this violence anymore.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, there's a culture of cancellation, which actually permeates everybody, and
Yep.
it's not healthy.
Mhm.
And no longer are we talking in a way that actually can get us to a progressive, constructive new way of being together in a world.
Yes.
We're just blaming and therefore not actually doing that interrogation of our own hearts, our own souls, the ways that we carry the lies in our own bodies and the
Yeah.
way that we interact in the world. And that interrogation is what MLK required.
Right.
That is what he actually called for. In fact, in the movement, when he was like recruiting people into the civil rights movement, one of the things they had to do was they had to recognize the ways that they were carrying the lies,
Mhm.
core lies, the core spiritual lies that were kind of holding them into the ways that the world worked,
Mhm.
in themselves and repent. That was the same that was true in the abolitionist movement.
Yes.
They had those altar calls to say, you have been believing a lie about
Right.
the way we're supposed to be interacting in the world. Come forward and claim the truth and
Mhm.
repent of
Right.
the violence you have been doing in your heart and also in your life and in your economy and all the things. But
Mhm.
we don't have that. We don't
No.
have that kind of come to the altar moment anymore because the altar itself has been desecrated.
Yes, and the you do this in your book, and I think the reason that the self-interrogation is possible is because of the doctrine of the Imago Dei.
Yes.
Yes, if I believe and MLK obviously talked about this, but it's like, if I know that I'm made in the image of God, and on the other side of my confession is blessing, then I can ask for forgiveness. Then I can name all the things. But most of us in faith communities do not experience that type of acceptance. We don't.
It's really true.
We
And
don't.
in most of our faith communities, we have a very anemic understanding of the image of God.
Right.
If anything, we just kind of quote it. They're made in the image of God. They're made in the
Right.
image of God, but there's no real deep taking in of what that really means.
Right.
I mean, if they are made in the image of God, then they were actually created to exercise stewardship of the world. Like
Yes.
they were created to help steward the world, which means that we shouldn't be having these hierarchies of human belonging at all. What does it mean
Yes.
if they are made in the image of God? That means they were not created to be my Uber driver,
Right. Right.
right? They were not created to be my gardener. They were not created to be my to be my.
To
You
be
see what
mine.
I'm saying?
Yes.
To be my. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I just want to finish that thought, and then I have another question for you. The thought that I want to finish is that I think that it helps me to get a sense of perspective
Mhm.
on this question of American addiction to violence,
Mhm.
or even the nominality of violence, the normality of violence
Right.
in America. Think about this. And also with relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. Think about this. Jeffrey Epstein was doing the bulk of what he did in the 1990s, like the bulk of the worst part of what he did. It actually started in the 1990s, like it was circa 1991, 1990,
Mhm.
well, basically all the way through the 90s, right?
Right.
And then stuff starts to come to light in the late 1990s, and then he's like, next thing you know, like early 2000s, he's has his first case that is mounted against him, and he's still doing it, and to this day,
Yes.
as the survivors are saying, it is still going to this day.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
he got started in the 1990s, maybe even late 80s. Remember this, the last state to outlaw rape in the context of marriage was, I believe it was North Dakota
Mhm.
in 1995.
Yeah.
1995.
Right. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
Yeah.
was legal in the United States of America to rape your wife
Mhm.
until 1995.
Mhm.
So we are not that far removed
Right.
from legalized violence.
Yes.
And remember this, it was only in 2002. No, 2022. 2022 that lynching
Yep.
was outlawed
Mhm.
in America.
Right. And we'll go further. California voted not to make slavery in prisons illegal. So we haven't repealed the 13th Amendment either. That documentary came out a long time ago, right? So
Yes,
anyway,
that we haven't
it's
repealed that section of it. We don't repeal
yeah,
the whole thing, but yes, that
yeah,
section of it.
that's like yeah,
We haven't. You're right, and they
yeah.
voted not to
They voted not to, right? So there's a
recently.
yeah, yeah. The institutionalized violence is real and it's lamentable for sure. And like how, and so I think with the book, when you talk about like holding the tension of those things,
Mhm.
that tension for me started with the liturgy when we pray for our food. So that the blessing of food is in there. It's like, Lord, thank you for this food. Would you bless it to our bodies and our bodies to your service? Be with those who made this food possible, right? And those who don't have any to eat. Would they experience
Wow.
the same freedom, the same fellowship, the same provision you've given us so generously, right? And so
Mhm.
my daughter, she's 5. She she says that prayer. Every time we eat, she looks and she said, "Oh, thank you for this, thank you for this, thank you for that." And remember who made this food and remember those who don't have it. We
Mm,
hold those things together,
mm.
right? You
Right.
have to. Or because people are like, "Oh, like, I want a farm to table, like, I want people involved in my food." People are involved in our food. People are involved in all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We just don't see them, so how do we make those things visible even as we posture ourselves for that?
I
So,
like that. I really like that because we all have to eat. And
everybody,
yeah, and
everybody.
we all need the food that comes out
Yes.
to our table, and to use that part of our lives that is a ritual. It happens, hopefully, God willing, at least 3 times a day, 2 times a day at the least, right? Like,
Mhm.
to use that thing that's gonna come like a rhythm,
Yes. Yes.
as an opportunity to practice nonviolence,
Yes.
practice the beauty,
Mhm.
the
Right.
beauty.
Right.
Actually, and it does both, and the
It
resistance.
it
It's
does
both
both.
beauty and
Yes.
resistance. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I like
It does
that.
both. Yeah. Mhm.
I like that. So tell me about in your table of contents, you have rest, restore, resist, repeat,
Yeah.
recuperate, right?
Yeah.
So it starts with reckoning, reckoning, rest, restore,
Mhm.
resist, repeat, recuperate.
Yeah.
First of all, where did you get that? Like, I love it. And then secondly, how do you see that actually helping us in today's context where you literally have cities? In fact, I've been in conversations just overnight, even, it's only a matter of time before the scourge of
Yes.
ice comes to all of our cities, right?
Yes.
All of our metropolitan areas. And I mean, look, if it can come to Charlotte, North Carolina, like, it can come to a city near you.
Yes.
The thing is, ice is already in all of these places, but they haven't barraged in the same way that
Right.
they have LA, North
Sure.
Carolina, or Charlotte, Chicago, and now threatening New York City. But I know, we all know they're coming, right? So
Mhm.
as we are preparing to really, it's war. Like,
Mhm.
we are in the middle of a war. We are defending our neighbors,
Right.
literally. Um, it is not, it is a nonviolent war on our part, but not on theirs.
Right.
They
Right.
are literally beating people, pastors up,
Yes.
mushing their
Yes.
faces into the pavement, killing people, hanging them in jail,
Mhm. Mhm.
raping women in jail. These are
Mhm.
the reports that are coming out, and the people are saying, "Oh, but I'm ICE. I'm untouchable." Like, that's
Right.
that's what they're saying.
Right.
Um, and so this is our context right now. I mean, really, how do you hold a freaking rule of life in the context of freaking war? Like, I want to know. I want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be very honest. Like, I'm literally prepping like ice trainings like before this call. So I'm trying to figure out what that means and looks like for
For New York, because you're in New York.
because I'm in New York City, right?
Mhm.
And so um I think there's a few things. One, I remember Charlottesville, right? The
Yes.
March through Charlottesville. And I was asked to come and I went in the wake of that. And I said, for some of us, this is brand new. For others of us, this is normal. For others of us, this is a new opportunity to re-engage. I said, the reckonings are happening, but it doesn't happen for everybody at the same time. So that's why the reckoning is that chapter.
That's good.
And yeah, and then rest comes from the reality that Sabbath is the first day of the week.
Mm.
And if we don't move from a place of rest, we'll work for rest. And so for me, I didn't believe that, right? Ideologically, plantation mentality. I got to earn my identity, keep my place. If I fall off, like I'm going to get kicked out or punished in some way. So I would work, 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 right? But we can't do that. That's not the way of Jesus.
Mm.
It's not. And so before I hop up and do this rally or go and lead this thing, like I have to check in. Did I eat something? When was the last time how did I sleep? Is my butt clean? Like this baby stuff, right? Am I clean? Do I have a bottle of water?
I'm sorry. My butt's
Listen,
always clean.
li- listen, literally, there are some people, right, that just need to remember what we got as babies.
That is really true.
Food,
It's true. We
water.
have to deal with the basics
Yeah,
before we
I'm
can actually.
clean. I'm
Yeah,
clean. I'm well
don't.
hydrated and I can go somewhere. You know what I mean? And
That's
so,
good.
but literally, if you think about what's happening in Gaza, what are they taking away? You take away the ability to eat. You take away water. You ration food. You punish people. You don't allow people to have the basic functions,
Even medical care, yes,
even medical care,
which
right?
is
And
what
so,
they are also doing to us.
yes, which these are all the same, right? This,
Mhm.
yeah, we can go to
Makes
historical stuff
sense,
for
yeah.
sure, but all that to say, like, give whatever we can control. My mama would tell me, Jonathan, you go on and do what you gonna do in New York.
Mhm.
There's a bucket in the woods. I found a bucket in the woods that was turned over. I said, Mom, what is this bucket? She said, Jonathan, when I need to go on vacation, I go sit on that bucket. And I can be with God and he can be with me and I can come back after I'd rested a little bit.
That bucket was her vacation.
That was her bucket. Yes. Priscilla's dad said the same thing. She's like, Baba, why don't we go on vacation? And he would sit on top of his laundry machine on the east side and he would turn it on. He said, I'm on vacation right now. Right. Listen, so
Wow.
I think there's some theology there in
Okay,
that.
wait.
Oh, go ahead.
There are resources there.
There are resources
There
there.
are theological, but
Yes.
there are resources there for us
Hmm.
for today because
Right.
what you just showed us is that we don't need large budgets. We don't need to
Right.
book a flight in order to find the rest that we need.
Right.
We can have a bucket.
Right.
Here's your bucket.
There has to be the kingdom of God is accessible to all people. Right.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so when I was writing, I was like, rest does not have to be expensive. And then with restorative rhythms, don't have to be expensive. Just need to be intentional and yours. That's it.
Mm.
Like that's what like the first time I had pizza with Jesus changed my life. Cost me $6. You know, I was at Coronets up on 110th and Broadway. I had a tall can of iced tea and I sat there. And somebody came up to me. They're like, "Oh, like the people that I knew." They were like, "Are you good by yourself?" I was like, "No, I'm not by myself. This is
Mm.
good. I'm totally fine." You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like
I do.
so the rest and then restore. Like we gotta identify those things
Mhm.
so that we know where the wells are that fill us up, who the people are, what are the structures and practices, right? And then when we resist, then I'll have the presence of mind to say, you know what? I don't actually have capacity to go to that protest. Or I can't go
Mhm.
do that thing. And I talk about three moms in the book that
Mhm.
like I was asking them, like, you're raising kids in
Mhm.
Baltimore, in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh. What does it look like? She said, Jonathan, like, I'm raising two black boys, one with special needs. Every single day that I get up is resistance.
Mhm.
Like
Literally.
you could march, people can march in the street. I'm going to march to the school board.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then there isn't this hierarchy of activism,
Yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, you interceding in your room is just as important as what they're doing on Capitol Hill. Everybody's got to play their part. Terrence Lester talked about that last week, sitting on a fridge, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's got to play their part. And so that's the resistance part. As long as it is intentional and yours and postured on those five eyes, like how are you going to reflect the kingdom of God outward? And then you repeat it like daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly, annually. Like I
Mhm.
was, in thinking about that, like
Mhm.
the daily rhythms that I have, you just elongate them if you have that time and that space. And so for me, it's like, oh, if I taking for me, like I'm able to, in Jesus' name, take a day alone with God. That's part of my job, right?
Mhm.
At
Mhm.
this age and stage of life, if I'm going to do that every year, like I need to stretch that out. Like,
Yeah.
and then I take the reflections that I've been doing, and then I take a longer time to be able to do that.
Mhm.
I listen to sports podcasts every day. I
That's
sit
part of your rule of life?
It's part of my rule of life. I know what's happening with the San
Mm.
Antonio Spurs and Victor Wembanyama. Like I'm just like, oh, this is great. Do I have time to watch a game? No. Do I have
That's
time?
because that's your fun place, right?
That's
Like, that's
exactly yeah,
that's where you get your joy.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
wow.
Josh
Yes.
Johnson, oh man, Josh Johnson, amazing. The comedian,
Yes,
every
love
Tuesday night,
him.
every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. I'm like cleaning dishes in my have every Tuesday. These
Wow.
little things, you know. And then there's Lent. Like Lent, we are gonna protest. Our whole family's gonna protest. That's gonna
Mhm,
happen at Lent.
mhm.
Advent, we're trying a new thing this year because we're just not gonna get gifts. We gotta do something different.
Yeah,
See, our kids are
yeah.
old enough, they understand why we're doing what we're doing, and like
Mhm,
you're gonna get an experience with other people, but
mm,
like there's no need for us to buy the things now because like literally they understand. I was like, nothing is precious to you.
mm.
You wanted the thing in the store, it's in the car before we get out. You forgot about it.
That's
You did-
exactly right.
Right.
That
So
it
like
just gets left behind, you know?
so
Like the rapture.
right. Exactly. And it ain't folded
Like
up. It's just out.
that little toy is left behind going, "Where'd my mom go?"
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so all that to say, I think when we protect these rhythms, we'll have the presence of mind to respond, not react when things go really
Mhm.
bad. And as simple as like I talk about this in the book, um, a woman selling mangoes on the side of the street. If I am stressed and tired, haven't eaten and all those things, she just becomes an obstacle,
Mm.
a
Mm.
traffic, like she's a traffic cone. I got to get around her to get to where I'm going.
Right.
Right.
Or use her to get to get the mango, but not really care about her,
And not see her. Right.
see her.
Right. And then my daughter, the older one, she asks, are we going to buy all her mangoes so she can go home? That's her
Your
question.
daughter asked that.
It's the question, right? Because she is present in
Yeah.
her car seat.
Yeah.
Look at because she's learned, right? She's watching. She's
Wow.
watching. So
Wow.
now that's her normal,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so all that I think there's these moments where the kingdom of God can break in. And if we're surrounded by people who are rested, who are restored, it gives us the character and capacity and the invitation to reckon with what's happening and then be resistant to powers and structures that oppress, marginalize, and destroy. Right? Most
Yes.
and most of us like that's why what like Van Jones said was really unhelpful
Hmm.
when he said you see
Which thing that he said that was really unhelpful?
about Gaza. Yeah, there's a lot.
He said a few things that have been
This
a little
season is
unhelpful,
not
but
helpful for him right
yeah,
now.
he's been in a stretch. But anyway, so
Yeah.
he said something I missed it. What did he say
Yeah.
about
So what he said was he said a very similar line. There was another Zionist activist that said children are being indoctrinated these days by videos from Gaza. And he goes, you swipe,
Oh, yes.
and right. And so that to me indicates what his inner life is like.
Yeah.
That to me indicates what your inner life is like. Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You wouldn't say things like that if your life was oriented in a different way.
It's
Right?
true. You could not dehumanize
Right.
a whole
Yes.
people group.
Right.
In other words, counting their murders, their
Yes.
genocide
Right.
as as clickbait.
Yes. Yes. It so that's what so I think, someone else said like, and it might have been you, when people tell us who they are, we should believe them. Right. And so for me, it's like, how can I become a person?
Yeah.
Again, not castigating him and like, moving up
Sure,
the
it's not
aisle.
about him. It's just
It's not
about
about him. It's like how can I resist the reactivity and the proclivity to dehumanize, the
Mhm,
temptation to literally just like say paint this broad brush. Like, how do I do that? It's like I have to see the people who are in front of me,
mm,
intimate, right? Like it really bothers. I said this last week. It really bothers me that when I got an email from an activist a few years ago, doing the events, traveling, speaking, his marriage is falling apart,
mm,
right?
mhm.
Like people that like they look fine on the outside, but
Yeah.
Jesus says like you're just a whitewashed tomb.
Mm,
That's what he says.
mm,
He
mm.
says your mouth is an open grave.
Wow.
That's what Jesus,
Yes, that's right. That's right.
and so I'm like, oh man, okay, so like how do we get past this facade? right?
Yeah.
So that we are actually embodying the fruits of the spirit in our lives, so that when we show up, there is no scandal when you pull the curtains back, you
You
know?
know, it's
So
funny. I'm sorry, but it's funny because I think a lot of people who are listening in also, I mean, we have different generations who are listening in. We have younger people who are Gen Z and millennial, maybe even who knows, some alphas that are out there who might be listening in. Um, but a lot of my audience are actually millennials and Gen Z. I was
Mhm.
surprised by the Gen Z people. That's true. But then equally as much, and maybe even like slightly less than millennial are Gen Xers, my people, right? So,
Mhm.
um, and I think that when you like, I'm going to now speak to the Gen Xers, right? Part of what I said to the woman who was interviewing me yesterday, who is wonderful and fabulous in her own right, right? When she said, "What's your rule of life?" Um, Part of me was thinking, I have been on this journey for a long time. And I was thinking of it as, well, that's scaffolding. I mean, I did that scaffolding literally in my 30s, and I that got me to the place where I am now, is I'm operating out of flow, which is really what we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
But there is such a thing. I said this earlier about pressure.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yes,
like
yes, yes.
the scaffolding is there in order to help you when the pressure comes.
Right.
And the reality is all of us are feeling the pressure. But I will also say that there is something about, stepping into your 50s, your late 40s, your 50s, yay, even your 60s. Some Gen Xers are actually like 60 this year
Mhm.
um and so what would it look like for us to reignite
Yeah.
the flame, the fire, rebuild that scaffolding in order
Mhm.
to kind of go deeper still,
Right.
not be satisfied with what we got in our 40s or 30s or
Mhm.
20s, but rather to reignite the flame um, of our youth.
Yeah.
Not the flame, it's not the flame of faith. It's not that because that's already very much burning in me and in a lot of my friends, actually, a lot of people who have been at this for a very long time. It's not the flame of faith. It's it's the sense of passion
Mm.
in in an intentionality.
Mhm.
It's passionate intentionality in the struggle of spiritual formation, the struggle
Mhm.
to spiritually form. And I think that for me, what will work to help me to re-engage, and I am already motivated just through this conversation.
Mhm.
Um, but what will help me to re-engage is to understand that the moment we are in now
Mhm.
is different than the moment I was in and our world was in when I was in my 20s and
Yeah.
30s, when I first took on that rule of life.
Mhm.
That,
Mhm.
okay, I do this daily, I do this weekly, I do this
Right.
monthly, I do this annually, quarterly, annually. I literally had that, right?
Mhm.
That rhythm. And that I learned these things in like the context of the 1990s
Right.
and early 2000s. And that's a whole different world
Different world.
context. Maybe I need to re-engage in
Mhm.
order, like my spiritual formation,
Mm.
in order to get what I need in this context.
Mhm. Mhm.
Can I also say one other thing? I think I honestly, even as I say that, there's part of me that I can hear people in my head, right? I can hear some of my friends who are like post-evangelical or ex-evangelical, whatever, just cringing, quite honestly, at this language that comes from the evangelical world, this rule
Mhm.
of life, so restrictive, and
Mhm.
it's like, oh, like and I can understand that. I do.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, quite look, as evangelicals, we've been like, quite cringeworthy in the last. We
For
really
sure.
have
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
last, at least especially the last decade, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah. 50 years.
what I mean, honestly,
In the
since the religious right was
Yeah,
born,
I was
so
like
it's
50,
kind of
50,
cringeworthy.
1979. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So, what does it look like then for you, ex-evangelical, post-evangelical, somebody who is in deconstructing mode, not to deconstruct the health of your own
Yeah.
soul, the health of
Yeah.
your own spirit,
Mhm.
but rather to continue to care for that
Mhm.
um, in the midst of your deconstructing. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I think for me, and I don't know if you've done this work, but for me, part of it, what would help is to understand that this idea of the rule of life, which really is just the rhythms of life,
Mhm.
is a very indigenous idea.
Yes. Yes.
It's not a white man's idea.
Right.
I mean, and by white, I mean the political categorization of white, like the power. It doesn't come from power. It actually uh, comes from being close to the earth. It comes from being close to the ground. It comes from being connected
Mhm.
with each other and with God.
Yeah.
And I think of the people that I know who are still in their 60s and 70s practicing this rhythm of life.
Yeah.
The people I know who are doing it the most are actually my indigenous brothers and sisters. Does that help? Maybe that helps
Yeah.
because it's not an assent to white
Right.
supremacy,
Right.
to say, okay, I'm going to engage in a quote rule of life. Maybe it's not a rule of life. Maybe it's a rhythm of life.
Yeah, so that when we were going through the titles of the book, it's like they were like, "Jonathan, you're not actually talking about a rule of life. You're talking about spiritual rhythms for formation, individual, and repair, individual moving outward."
Yeah.
Right? I had a great conversation with the woman, Diana Heinrich. She runs the Ethical Storytelling Conference. And she said, "Jonathan, I appreciate all the things you said, but I wonder, can you grow?" This is one of the best conversations I've had in a few years. She said,
Mm-hmm.
"Jonathan, can you move from a hierarchy and a linear progression to an ecosystem of interdependence?"
Yes,
Right?
a circle actually.
Right. And so
Circle of
so
ending.
that's how the book is more written. It's like
Mm.
this is an ecosystem as opposed to a hierarchy. The
That's important.
goal is right. But because of how I've been cultured,
Right,
right? And I've
right,
been disconnected from the land where I'm from in that way, right?
right.
I don't have a bucket anymore. We got Whole Foods.
Y'all need to set up a bucket in your
Right.
living room.
Right.
Or if you 10, you need to buy a bucket. I'm serious.
Right. But so I don't for the reconstructing and deconstructing and all those kind of folks, chapter 5 might be the first book, the chapter you need to read, which is recuperation.
Ah,
Because
yeah.
I didn't know where I thought about putting it at the beginning, but it ended up at the end.
Mhm.
But it's like
Chapter 6, buddy, chapter 6.
oh, chapter 6, sorry. The 5th arc.
Why can't I just get started is the name of the chapter.
Right, and I think that's for the folks who have suffered under, and I do mean suffered under, like, the weight of religious, spiritual, like, systems that were, like, rigid,
Yeah.
um, you might need to recuperate.
Mhm.
It's not another task. It's not another thing to figure out. It's like, can you just be in the presence of God? And can you be in the presence of other people
Yeah.
and not feel obligated to perform? And even if you feel obligated to make a conscious choice, because that feeling is not reality,
Yeah.
right? Like I
Yeah.
have this emotional awareness and I can make a choice as an adult, not the choice that I made when I was 5 when I experienced that thing or 13 when I experienced that thing. I talk about that in the book of how trauma in our households can be reinforced by systems and structures that are outside your house. And so it
Mhm.
creates this echo of trauma, right? So if
Mhm.
I'm in my house trying to get attention from my parents who work all the time and my dad who's absent, oh, I walk outside and now I can be the magical Negro and I'll get that affirmation. Both of those are chains. Both of
Mhm.
that shit. And the gospel can
Mhm.
free us from both of those things. But
Right.
the recuperation can help with that. Because when we decide to follow Jesus, when our identity is rooted, this is evangelical, right? When our identities are rooted in him and we can step into that, then protests and resistance, we are not seeking to be seen and heard and felt and valuable and celebrated. We
Mhm.
got that in Jesus. Because wouldn't it be amazing if I showed up on the street and I didn't need something from anybody? I
Yeah.
didn't need it.
Well,
You
can I
know what
just
I
say
mean? In a
that's
sense. Right.
that also I think that that's also and I know we've been going for an hour and maybe
I
10 minutes or so.
I
I'm
just
like,
like talking to you, so
"No, I know. I could literally talk to you all day long. I seriously could." And this is a good, amazing conversation, which could go all day. In fact, we could probably do a series or something on it. We're not gonna do that because y'all need to read the book and you need to do your own series on it. But I just wanna say this, that, I mean, I think that part of that is also has to do with stage of life and phase of life.
yes. Mhm.
Like, I think that there is something about your 20s when you don't know who you are and you're
Yeah,
just trying to figure yourself out, right?
it's true.
So you're doing everything, and part of what doing everything means is that you're experiencing failure a lot.
Yes.
Right? Which is embarrassing sometimes, and so there's, like, a lot you're navigating there, and in
Mm,
your 30s, you're starting to figure out who you are, you're starting to and so now you're going deep into it, you're trying to hone it and sharpen it so that you can actually make contributions. In your 40s, generally speaking, you're actually out there contributing, you're doing
right.
the thing because you've done the work to
Yeah.
actually, hone your craft and know your stuff so you can really contribute in significant ways. And in your 50s, you're usually leading in these spaces. And so,
Yeah.
but also there's something about crossing over that 50,
Mm.
which we all watched. Oprah did it when she turned 50. Remember that? When she turned
That's true.
50, I think it was like around the year 2000. I don't remember
Yeah.
what her birthday is or, year. But I remember when she turned 50, there was this whole she did a whole segment on it saying that at 50, she didn't care what others thought.
Mhm.
And I will say, I mean, I'm 56 now, right? So I'm
Nice.
6 years past that. Yes, I am. Hello, somebody.
I
Black
know we keep the
you don't
time
you
goes, and I
did you
think it
forget?
stops for
Did you
everybody else.
forget black don't crack? But, like, I'm 56 now, right? And so I somebody recently, just last week, said to me, "I really love how you showed up in this particular space that we were both in last week."
Mm,
And, she and particularly with this one person that I had an interaction with. And I told her, I said, "That comes from being grounded in who I am.
mm.
I do not need anything from that person.
Yeah.
I'm not entering into our conversation needing anything from
Mm,
them.
mhm.
Instead, I'm interacting with them because I want to,
Yeah. You had a
because
choice.
I want to engage. And because I want to engage, I'm going to engage in the way that I want to engage. It's not about me pleasing him. It's not about me hoping that or not saying what I want to say because it might upset him or,
Mhm.
no, it's not about it's about showing up fully. And I think that that is something that we are all striving for. But I do think there's something about your 50s that actually kind of moves you right over that line where you just feel like you really have come to a place where, "No, I am who I am."
Mhm. Mhm.
And so let's
Yeah.
be
Mhm. Mhm.
together. And I want I don't think people have to wait till the 50s to get that. I think
Mhm.
people in their 50s are experiencing it, and now we can say, "Hey guys, this is a thing. This actually exists. This is how to show up."
Mhm. Mhm. And there's some okay, because social media and exposure and those kind of things like truncates that, right? Whereas like this conversation that we're having right now, I'm 39, you're 56.
Mhm.
What's fascinating to me about it is like my daughter, because of the work that I'm doing, because of the things I've learned from you, I can affirm her in a way that like she can show up at 12 with a little bit of
Mhm.
wisdom. She doesn't have the experience, but she's got the
Yeah.
exposure, right? And so when she turns 15, 16, 17, she will take lumps and have experiences for sure that I can't
Yeah.
control and I'm afraid of and I'm gonna see for. But it's like I wonder if the exposure
Mm.
can mitigate some of the suffering
Mm.
so that when because I think they're one of the problems with younger people today and like because I was a freshman when Facebook came out, right?
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, and so like
Mhm.
being exposed to things with no interpretation and no community and no context
Mm.
like can be deeply misshaping and malinformed, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
so it's like the things that I would have seen in my 20s, I saw much younger.
Mhm.
Right. And the things that my kids are going to be exposed to because of social media, because of how they've moved through the world and the world that they're in, are going to see these things earlier. And so I think it is incumbent, and you do this already, and now I feel like I'm talking to the older people for the younger people. It's like we have to create like a siphon of
Mm.
wisdom to
Mm.
be able to like, because they're exposed faster, they need divine orientation.
Oh, that's really
So,
good.
like, let me help you do this. And there's a group
Mm.
in DC that meets. They've been meeting for 5 years, and every time I talk with them, I meet with them about every like twice a year,
Mhm.
and they're all over like 50, 60, 75, 80 years old, and they're all talking about racial justice in Northern Virginia. And they've been
Mhm.
doing the work,
Mhm.
and every time we get to the Q&A, I said, friends, like, you don't understand
Yeah.
how important it is that you're 80 and doing this. I was
Mhm.
meeting with black pastors in DC, and it's 75, 80 years old, processing their trauma from Vietnam, and
Yeah.
how they can still show up on the block as the military comes in, right? Like, I'm like, so then I got some students and younger folks able to listen to them, and they were just like, it's just inspiring to see that, because they're not going to see that in the algorithm. They're not going to see it in their feed. So that intergenerational exchange of knowledge and wisdom is a can be for the people who are reconstructing and deconstructing, and the people who need, like you were saying, like, to get this flame, not the flame, but like, we'll find the
Passion.
metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, when y'all start to pour out and we receive and then pass it through, like, there's something magical that happens there, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
I'll give a story. I'll give a story. So I taught Maya, oh, sorry, my daughter, how to bake. She bakes. And she came into the kitchen, and her cousin was here who doesn't know how to cook. And I said to her, "Do you want to make some?" And she said, "Yes." And then she said, "Don't worry, I'll show her." And then they baked an entire cake by themselves. And she was showing her how to do it and doing all the things. And
Right.
there was something ignited in me, not because I was doing anything, but because I was observing what I had taught happening. And I
Wow.
think as people,
Yeah.
older people get to do that, or just learned people who have taught others, there's something ignited when that happens. And you
Yeah.
see people do it. So
Yeah. There really, really is. You're so right. Honestly, I'm having that moment with you right now. I am. That's crazy. I mean, y'all, yes. Okay, we won't go into the whole history, but just to say I knew him when. I knew him back when he was, like straight off the farm
yeah.
from Virginia. And in his freshman year, when that Facebook came out, and literally when I spoke at your fall conference,
Yes.
Shalom.
Yeah. And so
And
that talk is in 12 Lies, because it broke friendships and forged other ones.
wow.
Right. Yeah. Like,
Wow.
it was, yeah, we did it. Well,
There you
people
go.
can go read the book and hear about
I
that.
will.
But the very good gospel,
Mm.
that book, if people are sitting there and they're like, oh, like, I need something to reground me out of nonsense and back to the kingdom, like, that is the best book on the gospel that has endured the last 20
Mm.
years, right?
Mm.
Because Francis Chan, Crazy Love, not endured, my friend,
Mhm.
right? Ravi Zacharias, not endured, right?
Mhm.
You endured,
Wow.
right? You're
Wow.
still someone that people can follow and be faithful. There's
Mm.
no caveats,
Mm.
right? There's no asterisk. We can still quote you and not say a leader once said. We can say Lisa Sharon Harper said. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And
Mm.
that, I mean, may it be so of us and people who are listening, that there's no caveats when
Wow.
we go to glory. You know what I mean? So anyway,
Yeah. Well, wow.
flowers to
I hope
you.
I can live up to that now. But well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for the flowers. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for coming and hanging out at my kitchen table. I get to be at your kitchen table. This is so
Yeah.
fabulous. I think you're actually the first person to do this at your kitchen
I
table. So,
listen, I
and I
saw it. I
ask
was
for it
like,
every time, and nobody ever does. So, thank you so much, truly, and also for writing your book. Beautiful, beautiful book. And it is Beauty and Resistance, Spiritual Rhythms for Resistance and Repair. And so make sure you go get the book, make sure you begin to read it. And at the very least, if you are post-evangelical, ex-evangelical, all the things, reconstructing, decolonizing, if you're in that space and this might be a little too churchy for you, it's okay. I hope that you heard the soul of this, which is it's about reconnecting to God, to self, to the land, to others, and building a rhythm of life that can serve as a scaffolding for your own soul and your own spirit when the pressure comes. And the pressure is here. The pressure's here. So I know I'm motivated. I'm literally going to sit down today and I'm going to start to write out my rhythm of life. I need it again. I do need it again. And this is a great time because Advent is coming. It's literally right around the corner.
It is.
So thank you again. What is your word as you are going out as a result
Oh,
of being in the
oh
space?
man. I think you got me excited. I think I'm
Yay!
excited. Oh, yeah, like, when you hang out with so I was having a conversation with someone, and they said, "What do I do with all the people that tell me, like, stuff is impossible and I shouldn't be engaged in them things?" I said, "Go get new friends. Go find these new
Yes,
people."
yes.
So I appreciate you encouraging me because 'cause Imma finish these emails and write this stuff and see Jesus come in some difficult neighborhoods. So I appreciate that. I'm
Fabulous,
excited.
fabulous. I would say my word as we exit is electric. Like I feel electric right now. I feel very, very like energized for the next leg of this journey. Thank you for giving us that next piece that we need to add to the journey, the rhythm of life. Thank you for that. And everybody else, what is your word as you are exiting? What's the
Yeah.
word that characterizes how you are exiting as a result of being here today? Please write it in the chat if you can. Let's get some of those words. And if you are watching via video, make sure you write it in the comments below so that we can have a sense of how our conversation is hitting, you know?
Mhm.
And also, if you have any questions, we did not have time for questions today, but if you do still have questions, go ahead and write them in the comments once this goes up, and we'll circle back and we'll try to answer your questions there. And is it Mojin? Mujin says her word is ecosystem. Oh, I love that. That's great. Thank you so much. That's fabulous. And Annie Ponder, my friend Annie says ready. All
Nice.
caps, two exclamation points. Ready. I
That's
feel you. I
awesome.
feel you, Annie. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you again for coming and come back. You guys, next week. Next Tuesday, we have a treat. So come back to the table for a conversation, which will be a reunion of those who were part of the Four podcast. The Four are going to be at my kitchen table, not
Wow.
with me, but we're all going to be together having a kitchen table conversation. The Four podcast, if you haven't already heard of it, go check it out. Literally just Google it, it'll come up. But the four are myself, Michael Ray Matthews, Otis Moss III, and Jackie Lewis. So Reverend Jackie Lewis. So the four of us,
Oh,
black. In fact, it used to be located. It's no longer located there at the four dot black.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Thought that was so fabulous. But the four are coming to the kitchen table for a conversation, and it's a reunion for us to next week on Tuesday. So don't miss it. Let's come back together next week on Tuesday, and then after that is going to be Thanksgiving. And so, God bless you guys. I look forward to seeing you next week. Don't miss it.
Yes,
Next
I'll be
Tuesday.
there.
All right. Okay. Have a good one. Oh, and also subscribe, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye bye.
Amen. Bye.